Bang, bang.
Also, I remember when we used to play Bang Bang, wel die Bang Bang is verby. Eskom is aan hier in Soutrivier, Kaapstad, Suid-Afrika, en dit beteken ons kan Bush Radio se computers aansit. Dit vat so rukkie, is so 'n bietjie so 'n ou diesel generator wat 'n ou so 'n paar keer moet draai en dan skop hy aan die gang. My naam is Toast Koester, hierdie is The Unhappy Hour Show. Welcome to it this evening. I'll be with you until 8 o'clock. Slightly shorter show than usual, but plenty of time to have some interesting content for you, play some lekker music until 8 o'clock when it will be time for Blues in the Bush. And because they've been waiting, and we were all waiting while the power was still off, I will jump straight into the interview this evening, or I'll introduce the artists in studio this evening, and then we're going to play some of their music and then chat to them. So ja, welkom aan julle hier in die studio, Prinses Chris en Panos.
What's up?
Ek is baie bly julle is hier. Ek weet is redelik crazy daar buite, dis naweek en I don't know, mense speel rugby iewers en ons karre en goeder so. Ek waardeer dit julle.
Is nogal onmenslik warm.
Is onmenslik warm ook nog daar buite. Ja, so waardeer dit julle is. Julle het van waar af gekom, Bellville?
Bellville,
ja.
Is dit albei van julle se hood?
Nee, hy woon in
Durbanville, Stellenrijk.
Ja.
So in my mind is dit dieselfde plek. As jy soos in hierdie kant van die stad bly. Ja, Northern Suburbs. Nee, ek weet daarom, ek ken daarom die verskil. Ek joke maar net. Ek's baie bly julle is hier. Ons gaan, ek dink, voor ons enigiets anders doen, kom ons speel van julle musiek. So Prinses Chris, as jy daai eerste track van julle daar gereed kan kry. Jy kan sommer net iets sê ook wat die track se title is. En is dit onder die Prinses Chris naam, die artist name?
Chris, ja. On Spotify, Apple Music, all streaming services, Prinses Chris, ja.
Kwaai, en wat is die track se naam?
Fourth Wall.
Fourth.
Ja.
For all. Okay, Loem.
Fourth Wall.
Fourth Wall.
Ja.
Maar kan ek eers hoor nie. Okay, jy kan maar speel.
Okay.
Legend that time made me immortal. Reverse reality, I jump into a portal. Find the duality, then look into the middle. Find the duality, then look into the middle. Banging on my head against the fall. Mental legend that time made me immortal. Reverse reality, I jump into a portal. Find the duality, then look into the middle. Why you look at me, I'm feeling fine. I'm just looking at the cryptic signs. Run away another timeline. Far away from the limelight. Banging on my head against the fall. Mental legend that time made me immortal. Reverse reality, I jump into a portal. Find the duality, then look into the middle. Banging on my head against the fall. Mental legend that time made me immortal. Reverse reality, I jump into a portal. Find the duality, then look into the middle. Find the duality, then look into the middle. I just wish it feels like failure. Tell me to go find another one. Tell me to go find another one. Banging on my head against a fourth wall now. Run away, I wish my parents told me how. Told me how to fly away. Escape, come back another day. Banging on my head against a fourth wall now. Run away, I wish my parents told me how. Told me how to fly away. Escape, come back another day. Banging on my head against a fourth wall. Mental legend that time made me immortal. Reverse reality, I jump into a portal. Find the duality, then look into the middle. I'm just listening, observing, shit. emotions, yeah, I got all of it. Running to the goal, when your soul's mine. While you look at me, I'm feeling fine. Banging on my head against a 4-4. Mental allergy and the time and me immortal. Reverse reality, I jump into a portal. Find the duality and look into the middle. Banging on my head against a 4-4. Mental allergy and the time and me immortal. Reverse reality, I jump into a portal. Find the duality and look into the middle.
Daar's hy track se naam is Fourth Wall, is Princess Chris, and we're chatting to Princess Chris in Panos hier in die studio. Ja, tell us about that track, Princess Chris. I mean, ek gee nou die hele tyd Princess Chris noem, nee, dis reg. Ja. Jy het nie 'n ander naam nie. Dis jou doopnaam. Okay, yeah, that's it. Settled.
Christian Chris, yeah. Okay, so basically that track, it's just around that stage I was like mostly just messing around with new sounds, and I was getting into some kind of London stuff, but like South London, like the artist's name is Burial, so I like he has a lot of like DIY percussions, and I started trying to like mimic those type of percussions, and that was around the time I made this track. This was still quite heavily trap influenced, but yeah, so I just hopped on the computer and made that track.
I mean,
yeah.
it's a beautiful track. It's got that really sort of uplifting vibe that you would, well, I can imagine listening to, you know, in the car after you like come back from a party or something like that.
No, yeah, I like that about the track. It's like it's quite emotional in it doesn't have any negative or positive really connotation. It's just like a chilled kind of, you feel content when listening to that song, and that's one of like the best feelings, and that's why I enjoy like playing that track. Like Friday I was at a party and I was playing that track and people were congratulating me on on making music and stuff like that, and they were impressed. It was so cool.
I mean, it's a more of a like a track, and listening to it now here in the Bush Radio studio, and you know, it'd be interesting to know what people think out there. Maybe they're driving in their cars and they're listening to this on FM, or many people are streaming the show on bushradio.co.za. I think this is a song that, you know, must be on radio. I mean, you know, being on radio is not really what it used to be a big deal. If you're on radio, your track has kind of made it in a way. These days, it's different. You know, it's how many people are streaming it, or whether it's on some podcast, or I don't know, whether people are using it as a TikTok soundtrack. I don't know. Like in your mind, what would it be, or what would give you a kick when you feel, oh, it actually feels like this track is successful? You know, is it as simple as, oh, Friday night at the party, people were like, yeah, that's cool? Well, or what do you feel?
Yeah, that's one thing. Like if, just the response, because when I started music, I started it like with, in an ironic sense. So I had a YouTube channel where I made jokes and stuff like that. So I just made music as a joke. But then I felt like people were reacting to it, and they were like, people knew me from the song. It had over 2,000 views on YouTube for my first song. And so it gave me a kick that I made people at least feel something, whether it was humor or whatever. But now I feel like emotions, like especially in teenagers, like we're run by like emotions. So if you have a nice track you're listening to and you've had a bad day or whatever, or maybe you're even in a good space and you're just listening to this track and it pumps you up, that's like what motivates me to keep putting out music. But the one thing that I've always wanted to do is to put my music on vinyl and just sell a couple copies, because I know if I have vinyl, it would probably be quite expensive because of like the costs of making it. But if I sold it, and people actually spend money on me, supporting me, it would be like, I would see these people actually care, and it's making them feel something.
Absolutely.
And that would give me like...
I know what you mean. I think when I grew up, I guess I got into music maybe more in the 1990s. So I was high school in like 1991, university, like late 90s. Yeah. Back then, vinyl was kind of old-fashioned, and it was still around, but people didn't really play it anymore. It was obviously the time of CDs. So like making a CD as a band or a singer was like the big thing, and that's what you're saying now about vinyl. And it's interesting how it's come back to vinyl being this item of value. But I agree totally with you that people willing to spend money on vinyl, and there are. I mean, yes, it's fairly expensive to make vinyl, which is why vinyl doesn't cost $100. It costs like 400 Rand or 700, 800 Rand if you buy a new one. But as for an artist, and I think maybe especially the kind of music you're making, there are obscure labels all over the world. I mean, it's often in like Berlin or somewhere, or maybe somewhere in South London that you're talking about, that specific scene, where there are cool record labels who are supporting artists and helping to promote their music on online platforms. But then also there are obviously those people who, and they make vinyl also not just for home listening, but also people who like to go out and DJ because they want to mix with vinyl and use that. So I think those opportunities are there. It's a matter of slowly, working at finding those.
Yeah. And I'm quite like a sentimental person. So if I like saw like my cover art that I made and like a record plate, like it would be like surreal to like know that I've put something like on vinyl, because I recently got a digital vinyl player in my room, and I plugged it into my mixer. We didn't think it would work, and we just plugged it into the like 2-track input, and it just like started playing, and we played some Paul Simon and stuff like that with like my girlfriend and Louis Panos. It was just like, it's just so cool listening to vinyl. Like, and I also make music mostly for myself. So I would be happy if it's like, if it's something like that,
it's a different experience listening to something on vinyl, because it's not just sort of bound to your phone, or it's not this portable thing you take everywhere. It's something you sit down and
special,
do. You're like, hang on, I want to play you this, and then you put it on.
It's something you make time for in your day to listen to.
Exactly. Yeah. Hang on. So, and Ivan, let's just backtrack a little bit. How old are you guys?
I'm 17, Louis 18.
I'm almost 19.
Okay. Almost 19.
Almost 19.
And so you guys don't make all this music together. It's mostly you, Princess Chris, doing this. So how has Panos become involved in recent times?
Well, we can both tell this story, but our parents were part of like a bunch of clubs with veggerij, stuff like that, around camping, obviously, and working in journalism, and our parents working in journalism and touring and stuff like that.
I mean, and this is how I know you, because I know your parents. And this is how you first sort of reached my radar.
A bunch of connections,
Exactly.
So I'm not sure how our parents exactly met, but I was about 3 to 5 years old, around that age, when I met Panos, Louis. And we were just like best friends, but it was up and down, because he's this big guy. I'm the smallest guy. I'm quite like a sensitive person, and he would always stand up for me and stuff. But sometimes, like, I would even get in his way, and it would be scary stuff.
I mean, since this is radio, so people can't see you guys, just for reference, Panos is more built like Dwayne Vermeulen, basically, and you are more built like who's that small guy who plays wings for us? Chislin Colby, you're the smaller, skinnier guy, and I'll take a photo of you guys later, and I'll put it on our Unhappy Hour Show Facebook page so people can see you guys. So, but at what age did you start making this music?
In 2020, in actually December of 2019, grade 8's ending. It was the holidays, and always had this YouTube channel since 7th grade, and I made this friend Vilan in high school, and we liked music a lot. Especially rap music, but newer rap music. I was still kind of into Eminem and stuff like that, but he was listening to newer people. But he's also like into rock and stuff like that. So at that point, we just wanted to make a funny song about about some vulgar stuff that's like extremely ironic, to like kind of make some people a bit, just give a weird vibe off. And then I just enjoyed like buying a mic, setting it up, recording, because I had a 300 Rand mic, and it took me months to be able to get the right adapters to plug that thing into my phone while plugging headphones in, because you would think it would be so easy, but it's hard to get into it when you have to teach yourself.
Yeah.
Because even on the internet, sometimes there's not even, like, they don't give you straight answers.
Yeah.
There were times where I took that microphone because it wasn't recording, and I threw it against a wall.
And then it worked.
I can't even remember, but it worked in the end. Yeah, something happened and it worked. But yeah, the microphone was like loose. When you shook it, you could hear like the insides, but I still recorded on it. But I make like, I'm the main producer. So Vilan, obviously he does vocals. He has a couple of tracks with me. He has his own mixtape, which I produced, and he put out. It's named Andrew Hall. Which is a name he got from, I think, a video game. But yeah, he's passionate about music, so I like working with him, but it's just busy because he's in public school, like it's busy stuff, so we can't always work on a project together, but it's always good vibes when we're like together and stuff like that. And with Louis is just like an amazing artist. He's been playing guitar for how long?
Since I was 6 years old.
Oh, really?
Yeah, since he was 6 years old. So he can, if I tell him a certain vibe to play, even though he only plays, I don't know what music.
90% of the time I play blues if I pick up the guitar.
Blues and old school rock. If I give him a vibe, he'll adapt and he'll be able to give me something I can work off of. That's what we did on. Actually, that's what we did on. On one of the tracks that I'm going to play later tonight. I took a voice note of him playing his guitar and just singing in his room alone.
Okay.
On his phone, recorded it.
Is that the unreleased track we're going to play later?
The unreleased one.
Okay, cool.
And I took that, and I took that voice note, I put it into a granular synthesizer, which I didn't know anything about at the time. I played around with some knobs, and then a video later, it didn't sound good, so I went out of the project and started something new. And later a video popped up actually about Burial, how Burial makes his samples. And they said something about you boost a certain frequency with an equalizer a bunch of times, and it'll play, I think, a note. So I did that with his voice note, and it was kind of like, it was a spacey type thing because it was like a sine wave sound, but in the background you could still hear him like plucking on the guitar and singing softly. And then I just like drenched it in reverb and stuff and played chords with that sample, and it sounded really amazing. It sounded like surreal. And me and him, that night we were in that room for at least 6 hours or something, just working on that song. It was amazing. And when we finally got it, most of the time I was just moving bands around in the EQ, trying to make the master sound or the mix sound right. And when we finally got it, it was the most amazing thing ever. And we're playing that song later tonight, so I'm super excited to share it.
We're going to listen to that in a bit. I think and this is obviously all home setup. You've got a little recording studio set up, what, like in your bedroom or garage or what? Yeah,
in my bedroom. But it took some time to get there because I like I said, for like the first year, I think I only used my phone, and I think that's what happened when I couldn't find the adapter, so I think I used Bluetooth headphones with a microphone or something like that. And and yeah, but it was hard starting it up. But when I got into contact with my dad's connections, the people, my dad actually had an old microphone from when he used to talk. He used to talk on the radio. He had an old microphone in his drawer, and I took that microphone, and to this day I record with that microphone. It's like a Wharfdale something 2.0, but yeah, it's a really old microphone. I googled it. I think you can buy it for 200 rand or something now. But I don't even know if the quality is. I don't even know if it's a placebo effect that the quality is good or something. But
it works.
It sounds good sometimes. Sometimes. But yeah, and I got into contact with some people my dad knows from they did stuff like the sound engineering stuff for Survivor.
Okay.
So they're very into that industry. So they hooked me up with like a bunch of equipment for half price. I got a big mixer. Can't remember the brand now, but it's a big like eight track mixer for when it's like an investment for when one day I'm gonna do like something big,
live shows or something.
Live shows, with like multiple people. I wanna be at a point where I can play a synthesizer live, something like that, plug it into the mixer, weird stuff like that. I just want to like make music with the stuff I have, and I have so much stuff now. It's so cool.
Yeah, it's amazing, and it is. You're right. It is an investment because, and it's cool that you guys are. You're learning by. You're making mistakes and you learn.
Yeah.
Then you progress and you discover something new. You get a new piece of equipment. You learn how to master that, and that's cool and you're doing this while you're at school. It's amazing. I think let's play a couple more tracks.
Yeah.
And then we come back and.
Can I say a last thing? Though?
Yeah.
Something that I discovered only recently, I knew about it, but I overlooked it for a long time, is saturator, just a saturate effect. And because my music's always been, I released 2 albums so far, and both of them had songs where they sounded soft, and I was making them, and it was the best song I've ever made, and then I'd release it, and on streaming services it would sound soft, and if it's soft it doesn't hit you like that. So I only recently I just like messed around with a bunch of plugins I have, and I just put a saturator on, and it just made the sound like alive, and I remastered all of the songs I'm playing today. Used more saturation, not a lot though, just more saturation to give it color and stuff like that. And I feel like to this day, 3 years after I started making music, I'm still discovering new things. Yeah,
and I reckon it'll never end. I mean, and whether that's because you get brand new gear equipment, new software, whatever it is, or, you rediscover some old, mixing desk or some old synthesizer from like the 70s or 80s, doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
It's always, going to add like a new dimension to what you're doing. And that's cool. Lekker. Kom ons speel nog 'n paar tracks daar. If you're just tuned in, this is the Unhappy Hour show. You're on Bush Radio 89.5 FM. We're streaming on bushradio.co.za. My name is Toast Kutzer. And I'm chatting here to Panos and to Princess Chris, and we're playing some tracks by Princess Chris. What is this next one called?
It's Run, all caps with an exclamation mark, by me, and it's was the first song my girlfriend worked. The first song my girlfriend was involved with ever, and I made it happen for her. And I her name's Mars, and she goes by Yvonne, YVXNNZ. Real cryptic stuff.
That's deep crypties. I love it. Love it. Let's hear it.
Find me someone who perceives me like you. Never knew me and I never knew you. Pressing me after I told you I through. Said you loved me all along, then why go be with someone new? I knew when you withdrew that you outgrew me. An open book can probably see right through me. Run until your legs start shaking. Run until your bones are breaking. Didn't end it cause I knew that you'd replace me. On a bender and I can't stop my heart from racing. Run certain. Flying with the birds, man. I knew when you withdrew that you outgrew me. An open book can probably see right through me. Run until your legs start shaking. Run until your bones are breaking. Flying with the birds, run until my bones are breaking. Black onyx under your pillow, so you forget about me. You're the good and the evil, the opposite of me. You don't see the circles are shattered. It's expected, but my intuition is crushing your habits. The black onyx will at the sky, it's keeping the balance. Duality, I add benevolence to the malice. Crush up the pixie dust, make aggression turn to violence. Crush up the pixie dust, crush up the pixie dust, make aggression turn to violence. Still deserve the answer, so I take psilocybin. Don't breathe on the free, there's more than enough room for me. Don't speak, only scream, avoiding the blasphemy. The black onyx will light the sky, it's keeping the balance. Duality, I add benevolence to the malice. Crush up the pixie dust, make aggression turn to violence. Crush up the pixie dust for a brief moment of silence. Isn't it bewitching to go back to what we know? Isn't it the circles that have us under control? The definition of my intuition is prison, a path to collect of color overtones. The black onyx will at the sky, it's keeping the balance. Duality, I add benevolence to the malice. Crush up the pixie dust, make aggression turn to violence. Crush up the pixie dust, crush.
Very cool. That's the sound of Princess Chris, that track featuring Faye, a track called Onyx. Before that was Princess Chris with Run, and that featured on vocals Yvonne.
Mm-hmm.
No.
Yeah.
How often do you collaborate these days? I mean, is it something that you sort of seek out all the time? I mean, I guess a lot of this is making music by yourself at home, working on stuff. And then do you just pretty much look around for your friends who have something to contribute, or what's the process there?
If someone likes music and they say something like, I want to make music, like, or even if someone would DM me on Instagram, like, they want to make a song with me, I'd give it a shot. It's not necessarily always going to work out, obviously, because not everyone is always so inclined to different stuff. But yeah, I'll collaborate with my friends, with people online. Especially one time I collaborated with someone who I actually found on TikTok with like 30,000 followers on TikTok.
Okay.
And I made a song with them, Orifice. Their name's Law2MG, and that was pretty cool because I never expected them to like hop on track with me, and it was so cool. And it's my most streamed track. It's my only song with over 1,000 streams on Spotify.
Okay.
So yeah.
And so how many, you say you've released 2 albums, so how many tracks in total have you got out there at the moment?
I think it's on the 60 songs that I have out.
60,
60, yeah.
That's a hell of a lot of tracks. But are they all on those 2 albums? Was it just like a whole lot of sort of single releases, basically?
Yeah, a lot of singles, EPs. A couple EPs, VLAN mixtape. So it's it's variety. Yeah.
Okay. And do you find that, I mean, as sort of a year or maybe a few months go past, that you influenced by suddenly something very different, and then you maybe make a track in that vein, or how are you sort of influenced to as far as the direction that the music is taking?
Usually, since I was small, I'm very hyper focused on certain things, but mostly one thing at a time. So first I got into rugby when I was very young. Like I actually got Panos into rugby, and now he's like the biggest rugby player in his team, scoring tries and stuff. He never liked it. He never wanted to play touchies with me. But now,
you were always this small, fast guy that I could never keep up with.
Yeah. And I actually got good at rugby. I played. We only had one team in grade 7, but I was first team for the primary school. So, but I was a flank, so I actually was quite good because I have a low center of gravity. I could go over the ball easily. And then my hyperfixation type thing switched over to soccer. And I was obsessed with soccer. And I was counting the days, like how old is Messi? How old was Messi when he signed for a professional club, and how old am I now, and how many days is it till before I'm older than Messi, before I'm behind him? So I wanted to be better. I wanted to be the best, and I was really good. I'm one player of the year in my club, which I didn't expect. I didn't even go to the award ceremony because I didn't think anyone would even vote for me or anything. And they called us to say, ruined the surprise. Said, he's going to win, come over.
But listen, so hang on. So if you now, I mean, are you still playing soccer, or has that hyper-focused sort of thing totally gone into music now? Yeah,
it's kind of only music, and recently writing as well, actually, and some visual art, but I do still play soccer. But back to the question about the influences, I've had similar influences. Like haven't really, my taste isn't that broad. Like I usually listen to a person and then I listen to them for long, and I kind of feel like my music doesn't entirely reflect what I listen to, because sometimes I'm even in a mood, like, I feel like there's nobody who makes the type of music I want to hear except for me, which is weird because I don't, it's a weird feeling saying something like that. But it's also satisfying knowing that I can make something that I like. But that's probably also just me getting tired of, because I make music 24/7, listen to music. So I just get tired of everything, and then I'm like, I need to listen to my same song, my mix file 10 times over to hear the small things that's standing out, to fix them. And then I go on my computer at like 1 a.m. and stay up and start recording vocals while my family's sleeping, stuff like that, trying to stay soft.
Well, I really hope that this focus on music, stays there, and it's not, you don't suddenly, think of the Lionel Messi example again and then jump onto
with the World Cup, it's actually coming back of it. It's like I'm getting quite involved again.
Yeah, but I mean, it's totally true. Obviously, if you don't really always think about it when you're in school, but if you're playing a sport that you may be quite good at, or maybe you think you're serious about it, you really should compare yourself at that age of like 12 or 14 or whatever to whatever, in that sport another guy was at, because If you just start this when you're 22, that's way too late. Then you're like, Uri Mir and
Yeah, I know. Yeah, people just need to be realistic sometimes. They're saying, no, you always have a chance. Like, really, no,
Just be
you're getting
real.
a beer pants at this age.
That's a fact. That's a fact. Have you played some shows live? I mean, even small ones, maybe just like whatever in the garage at home, or have you tried to take some of this live? Or and what are the challenges that you foresee when you do that?
Well, I haven't really reached out to anyone who can help me with it, but I have. The closest I've gotten to it is at parties, just walking up to the computer and queuing my own music and walking away because I cringe when I hear it. I just want other people to hear it and go check. And me and Vilan, sometimes we were really bored and we took my whole mixer to the like back room that we call the man cave as a joke, because we didn't. Man cave is the weirdest concept ever. But we took it to the man cave and we just went live on Instagram and started singing terribly because my laptop has too much latency to be able to use auto-tune live. So I don't know how I'm going to do that yet when I'm doing a live show, because me and Vilan, it's not the best. It's not the best at singing. But I guess I'm getting there though. Vilan, I guess he can agree sometimes. No, I'm joking. Vilan he's trying.
You mentioned writing earlier. What kind of writing are you doing? Is it sort of lyrics, or are you doing some other writing, or poetry, or what would you call it?
Well, I've always liked things that are brief but powerful. So kind of what caught my attention was remembering writing haikus. When we were in like grade 7, and I wrote a haiku in grade 7, and I think like the teacher saw it and she was like, amazed by it. So I started trying to do that again, like keeping myself limited to not a lot of words, to be able to express myself in the best way, or to be able to reflect before I speak. Mm-hmm. And then I can choose what I'm going to say, which is something that I found to be quite like, it's something that is almost synonymous with like Buddhists or people like that who want to. I've talked to a Buddhist the other day and I asked them what's the reason why they like sometimes they take a vow of silence. Mm-hmm. And they said there's many different reasons, but I told them my reason, that like you feel like you don't need as many words, or words aren't the only way of expressing yourself, and it's not the only way of communicating or evoking a feeling in someone. Mm-hmm. And I've always kind of had that feeling that words aren't at a time in lockdown during COVID, I was mostly isolated in my room. I didn't talk a lot, and I kind of thought like, okay, I'm not talking a lot, I'm making music, this is fun, like words aren't really necessary. But I kind of recently I got so into lyricism and just seeing the beauty in some things, that I saw that words can actually be so powerful and can be used in such a way that's actually like that brings up a feeling. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So yeah, I kind of got into that type of brief writing. I don't think I'll ever be able to write a book or something like that. Don't have the attention span or the commitment for that.
You never know.
Well, maybe, I don't know.
But I like the fact that you're looking for in your music, and whether that's some of it in lyrics. Lyrics are sometimes difficult to make out in the songs, but because the general feeling is positive. Even though you're saying it's not necessarily. It just makes you feel good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and that's the most important thing.
Yeah, and it's quite a difficult thing to figure out, because it's sometimes this mysterious thing in a song that makes you feel that way.
It makes you feel something, but
yeah, and you don't really know.
You don't know, yeah.
I think when you're making it, maybe eventually, people who make a lot of music, but you are already making a lot of music, they kind of figure out what the little magic recipe is to, get that kick that say, like I guess people who write like classic pop songs, like people who write songs for Adele or, whoever it is, they figure out a formula that this is where the chorus is and this is the kind of thing and the chord structures and what. But it is a bit of alchemy, figuring that out.
But you know what a crazy thing I realized the other day is I was like, I thought, okay, I'm working on this album. I want it to be amazing. What are some amazing things I can look at to help inspire me? And I immediately thought music. What is the one thing that's almost objectively, not entirely objectively, but almost objectively the best music? And I thought of like classical music, like the Romantic era, stuff like that. And I just came across Bach because he's just so well known for his fugues and things like that. And the concept of a fugue, when I first heard of it, it amazed me. And I made a song named Fugue in December of 2021, where I took one of Bach's well-tempered clavier fugues, and I took the sample, I pitched it down, I reversed it, and put a bunch of reverb on it, and it had like entirely trap feel. Like it was so versatile. It's such versatile music that you can change it like that. And I just listened to the music, and now with more insight into music, I could hear how amazing it was. And I don't know if this is a fact or not, but I heard the way he took three different voices that are maybe bass, what do you call it, soprano and whatever, middle,
alto or whatever, I don't know.
Yeah. And he played different speeds with the different voices, and it was all like fluctuating notes, like going in and out, and it was like entrancing. And I was like, this was made in like the 1400s or something, and I felt like, what is a way you would represent this in, if you were talking about something visual. And I thought it kind of feels like it's going around and in and out, and I thought of a DNA molecule.
Yeah.
And I Googled, and I had the thought there must be some kind of mathematic explanation for the fact that some things are just naturally appealing. And I thought of I do not know anything about this, but I just thought of it because I've heard of it, the Fibonacci sequence.
Yeah.
And I Googled, I thought it was such a stretch. I was like, is the Fibonacci sequence in DNA? And it said yes. And I don't know much about the Fibonacci sequence. This might be very obvious or not. I don't know. But it said yes. And this was like, what? This is crazy. Like, this is already connecting. And I just Googled, such a stretch. I Googled, is the Fibonacci sequence in Bach's music?
Yeah.
And it came up and it said yes, and I like jumped. I was like, what? I don't know if I even saw the Fibonacci sequence part or anything, but it was just so appealing and it was natural.
Yeah.
I think even the fact that it's not just a piano that was playing, or no, it was in that it was an organ that was playing, but just like a natural instrument and pure like music mixed with actual mathematics to be able to harmonize in that way.
Bach had it going on.
Yeah, it's
crazy. You knew
crazy.
where it was at.
Yeah, I don't know. It's insane.
He was totally ahead of his time.
Yeah, obviously. Yeah.
Dis incredible. Ons gaan nou nog 'n laaste track van julle. Joel, if you're just listening out there, somewhere in Cape Town, 89.5 FM here on Bush Radio. This is the Unhappy Hour show you're listening to with Toast Kutzer this evening. And I've got Princess Chris and Panos. Pano. Sy nuwe naam is Panos in the studio. We're going to play one more of their tracks in a moment, Dominion of the Clientele. And that's, Panos, that's the track on which you feature.
Yes.
Tell us about your contribution there.
Well, I did some of the the guitar and the bass guitar on the track, and I helped Chris with mastering it and getting the right wavelengths and stuff like that.
We sat along with only with equalizers, saying stuff like, okay, lower that a bit and try to see if that like pops out and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And we have a drop at the end that we wanted to stand out. That sometimes I go back and I still work on it, so I don't know if it's perfect at the moment, the version I'm going to play, because it is unreleased. But I think it's getting close to what I would define as actual good music. And what Louis did was he was just playing around on his guitar, and he showed me this one trick. Can you describe what the trick?
Do you know the song Iron Man from? With it, they have that doom.
Yeah.
And then I went on YouTube and I watched a video how to play the intro to that, and I saw that they behind the not the fret at the top at the neck of the guitar they press down on the string.
Okay.
And then I got that sound of the dip that it makes with the string, and I said to Chris, why don't we try this for the intro?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And then we just went with it.
We took the G string, I think, and we tuned it to a F sharp, because that was what
I think it was the E string.
I'm not sure. I'm not that good at music theory, but we just tuned it to be in key with the song, and I was like thinking, this is a bit is out of my level of expertise, because I haven't done a lot with actual instruments, so I didn't think this type of electronic music would mix with just one guitar string, and we did it, and it sounded amazing, and
cool.
We ran with it, and that's going to be on the next song.
I think let's take a listen to it. You can hit play there if you're ready. So this is Princess Chris featuring Panos,
and also Faye did some background vocals. My old friend from my old school.
Okay.
She did some background vocals. She's an amazing singer. Like, she's been singing since she was young. She's also helped me with another track on the album, the next album, and she was on the previous track, Onyx, as well. And the other track, I'm not going to play it today yet, but it's on my album, and it's maybe the best song I've ever made. And it's just an amazing song. I use a lot of pitching of the vocals, and it makes it feel surreal. But also in this next song, Dominion of the Clientele, I pitched the vocals a lot, so you guys can listen to that. Yeah.
Righto, you can play it. Let's take a listen.
Give
how awesome is that? That's Dominion of the Clientele by Princess Chris. I hope you turned that up nice and loud at home. Ons gesels hier met Panos in Princess Chris in die studio. That's the fourth track we've played. That one is unreleased. It will be released on when? Wednesday.
Wednesday, I'm releasing it as the album single, and but the album is coming hopefully. Well, I know it's coming next year. I don't know when next year, but I told myself I'm making this album for me, so I'm taking my time. So I can't give any info on when the album's dropping yet.
But it's coming.
But it's coming, and the single, this song that you just heard, is coming Wednesday. Maybe I'll remaster it a bit, and maybe it'll hit even harder when you listen to it on Spotify, so go check it out or something.
So that's the place on the streaming services. And this will, if people are searching for your music, basically Princess Chris is what they need to search
Princess
for.
Chris.
Okay, and that song, Dominion of the Clientele. And when you say you're working on an album, how many tracks are you thinking? 10, 12 tracks, an hour of music, or what's your sort of vision for it?
The thing is, I haven't mentioned this yet. This album is basically an archive of my youth. So I thought logically maybe 18 tracks for when I turn 18, one for every year or something like that. But that's not the amount that I went with actually. But because I couldn't make a song that represented each year, and it'll probably wouldn't fit that well because but I made it 12 tracks because I feel like that's a nice even number, and you can divide it into say 4 parts of something happening, something else happening, something else happening, 3 parts, maybe even 2 parts, and that exactly that is what made me think whether maybe I should drop 3 songs first, 3 songs next, 3 songs next, release album like that, or maybe with 4 songs, or maybe with 6 songs, just release the album in like periods because I have to balance like the commercial and the artistry, but I think for now I'm going to make it for myself, and and I'm going to release it all at once.
Yeah, I think totally. And I like, and you've said this a few times in interviews, that you're making music for yourself. And obviously, eventually, at some point, maybe a lot of people listening, you are by default also making it for other people. But it's got to matter to you. That would for jou saak maak.
I know by default, everyone makes music for, well, not necessarily for other people, but it's a big part of it. But I genuinely, when I started thinking of the concept of this album, I was genuinely like, this album is going to be for me, and I'm going to do it for me, and it's going to be by me, for me. It's going to be like at the end of, but like at the end of my teenage years, it's going to be my youth, and it's going to be about me. And it's just like my album. That's what when I started thinking about it, the first thought I had was just my album. So just that. And it does at the moment, the only thing I really want to say about the name is it does contain the word my, so people can work off of that and maybe guess what the album name is. But I have mentioned it a bunch of times, like online, if you really want to know. Like, you can go find it somewhere on my accounts or something.
I was going to ask you about your accounts. Which do you use, TikTok most, or Instagram most, or where can
Instagram.
people? Okay, and what's your handle there?
I don't know if it's appropriate for radio, no, but it's 8-Ball Hose Mad.
Okay, I'm going to tag you in actually, I did find you there because it took me a while. When I searched Princess Chris, I couldn't find it. Eventually I found you. So I will, I'll add that to our Unhappy Hour Facebook page, which is where people often comment on the show. I'll add that there. So it's there, and what, on TikTok as well?
Don't really use TikTok. And
okay, so mostly Instagram.
And I don't want to mention this because maybe it will come back to bite me when I try to get back on the platform, but a certain platform has banned me permanently.
Why?
Because they kept banning me for saying some random stuff, like when someone made a homophobic tweet or something. I was just like, I said something offensive, but only to the person, and they banned me once. And then I said tag the app. If you ban me again, I'll do something bad to you. Like to
Alright,
the
so it was
company.
like,
So it was an obvious. It was an
whatever.
obvious joke. I'm not going to touch the world famous company. And then they banned me permanently for that tweet. So
I was
they have
locked out of
something
my
coming for
account
them.
for like two months recently as well. It's a bloody police state
Yeah.
out there. Keep making music, keep making awesome music the way you're doing it.
Yeah.
And it'd be lucky to have you back in the studio maybe when this album comes out, because
Yeah.
and I love how you've conceptually thought about this next album, because it is in a way like a book. You're telling the story
Yeah,
of
yeah.
your life up to this point
Yeah.
through music, and that's conceptually a nice, very strong thing to work with. And if you're making a few more tracks like the Minion of the Clientele that we just played there, it's
Yeah.
going to be a great album.
Yeah, I think it's going to be quite.
You get
It's gonna
Panos
be
in there
something.
on Eighth Man, on a few tracks, and what
Yeah.
can possibly go wrong? Thank you very much for coming in this evening.
Yeah.
And I mean,
you.
in future, please send some tracks along. I'll be happy to play them on the show
and
again.
Everyone, be sure to look out for the album with features from Vilan, my best friend, Louis, my other best friend, my girlfriend, Mars, my other friend, Ingrid. And I'll probably run into some more people. So if you're trying to work on some music, you can just tell me and I'll go listen to what you've made. Or if it's your first time, I can help you. I can even maybe one day I can sponsor you with some equipment or something if I have the,
Awesome.
yeah. And so, shout out to everyone, Vilan, Louis, Mars, Ingrid. Yeah.
Panos, famous last words?
Not much, but thank you for having
Say
us.
it in Afrikaans.
Laat hom val waar hy wil.
Laat hom val waar hy wil.
That was it, Carlos. Dudes, bye, dankie. It was awesome. I'm going to play out here with a track from just an electronic artist that I thought of while we were having this interview, and he's been a big part of the soundtrack in my life, at least since late university years. But for the past 20 years, he's been making music on and off. A guy called Felix Leband. He's just brought out an album, South African guy, called The Soft White Hand, and this track is called We Know Major Tom is a Junkie. Stick around. I'm going to be playing tracks until 8 o'clock here when it's time for Blues in the Bush. Thanks so much to Princess, Chris, and Panos for coming in. All the best.
Yeah, same to you. Thank you for having us.
Shot.
Thank you so much.